Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Christian. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, good day. Wherever you are, whenever you're seeing this, I hope you are good. So guys, today we're going to be talking about the right questions to ask and becoming an inquisitive child again. This is a topic or a download rather that came to me while I was working on our current book, All About Love by Bell Hooks in the book club, and I was reading a certain passage, chapter 2, about love, about children, about parents, about how we learn about love and, right and wrong, truth and lies, what is or isn't in love and relationships. We learn all of that from our parents. And something that kind of spawned to me from reading that was about how most of the time children are taught to not question their parents' authority. They're taught to just take it as it is. I'm the parent, it is what it is. And sometimes kids are seen as annoying if they're curious or inquisitive. So I think that a lot of us have lost that inquisitive nature that we really clung to in childhood because of the things we experienced in our childhoods. And I think that that's why so many of us right now are confused in our own lives and don't know how to figure things out for ourselves. So let's get into this, guys. If you guys want to book with me, shop with me, connect with me, work with me, all of that and then some, check down below in the description box for all of the websites. I just uploaded a new podcast episode about this topic as well. So make sure you guys get into it. Everything is going to be down below. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into this topic, guys. I think that the problem that I see in so many clients, if not all clients, the reason I have a job, the reason therapists have a job is because most humans lack the ability to reflect on themselves. They lack the ability to be inquisitive about what they've experienced. They lack a certain amount of curiosity that allows them to really get to the nitty-gritty of what's affecting them. All I do in sessions is help you understand why it's your issue, help you understand all of the things in your life that have been affected to this thing, listen to what you say, listen to your experiences, and find maybe those hidden markers in those experiences that you're not recognizing, only because you can't objectively look at your situation and ask questions. Now, there are things that affect our ability to step outside of our situation and ask questions, like emotional attachments, if we're still not healed from certain things, of course. All of that might make it difficult, but for some of us, we are frozen in certain situations or in certain mindsets, and we can't understand how we can let it go. Like, it has such a big hold on us. And I think that the lack of inquisitiveness that we see today, people just do not want to be inquisitive. People don't want to be curious. People want to take something at face value and just believe it. And I think that the lack of inquisitiveness that we're seeing is also correlated to the lack of people just not knowing who they are, not knowing what's making them sad, not knowing what direction they want to go in, and not even knowing how to get started on that exploration. So what does inquisitiveness look like? Being inquisitive to me shows up as a hunger for knowledge, a hunger for the truth, a hunger for what's right, a hunger for how things work. What makes this go? What makes this go? What causes this? What causes this? Wanting to know all you can about the world around you, wanting to know all you can about the way you feel, wanting to know all you can about the people in your life. And for whatever reason, most of us get to a point in childhood where we don't want to know. We don't want to ask questions. We're not comfortable asking questions. We're not comfortable saying, hey, why do I have to do this? Or what does this mean? Or what does that mean? And we're seeing now that a lot of parents are talking about the importance of talking to your children like they're adults, not talking to them like they're infants forever, talking to them like they're adults, talking to them like they're humans, like they can understand respect and love and sex and relationships. And there's certain things that, of course, kids aren't going to be able to grasp. But the bare minimum, some of us weren't even able to question why our parents wanted us to do certain things. If they told us no, we couldn't even question why. If they said something, we couldn't even question why. If we saw them doing something that they told us not to do, we were told to just turn our head and not say anything rather than question them and question their authority. And this develops a relationship between us and the truth, us and speaking up against what's right, us and saying, hey, I'm not sure how I feel about this. And that's why so many people can't say in a relationship where they're not getting what they need, hey, I don't know how you've been feeling about this, but I haven't been feeling so good about it. So many of us are afraid of confrontation. We're afraid of uncomfortable conversations because we've never had open communication from the very beginning. We have never been in a space where we could question someone or say, hey, I know you meant the best, but it didn't feel like the best to me. So how can we maneuver past this? How can we make it work? A lot of times we may say, hey, my parent hurt my feelings, and they don't apologize. They just say, well, I did the best I could, or, oh, well, that's too bad. You know, what do we think that's teaching our children? What do we think that's teaching us? You know, I think that unfortunately, a lot of things that we experience are things that our parents experience, are things that their parents experience. People can only give you what they've been given. And a lot of people don't really know how to be a parent in the right ways. A lot of people don't know how to really give unconditional love. A lot of people think that shelter, clothes, and food is unconditional love. And they forget all of the other things that really make you into a human being, make you into someone who trusts yourself, make you into someone who trusts your judgment, who knows where you're going, who feels confident about the things that are coming up in your head. You know, if you don't feel comfortable enough to ask a question to anyone in your life, or even ask yourself, why did I do this? You know, what happened? Why did I make this decision? Why am I allowing this to happen? You know, that inquisitiveness is lacking. And chances are you're going to forever be longing for the answers to those questions. And if you don't get the answers, you're going to be looking for distractions, or you'll be looking for the answers in the wrong place. A lot of times we look for answers in a sense of something to make me feel better, when in reality, an answer is the answer. The answer doesn't always have to make you feel better. It's just the truth of whatever's on the other side of that question. But if you're not taught to answer questions and to observe people's behavior and ask questions about their behavior and know this behavior means this, you're not really ever going to understand why people are doing that, why people are saying that, why people are treating you the way that they are, why you feel the way that you feel. And you're also going to be too afraid and too anxious to even ask a question. You know, some of us can't even have that dialogue with ourselves. We have to have a reading. We have to see a therapist. And I don't think there's anything wrong with readers, of course, or therapists. I'm a reader. I'm a mentor. I think that those roles are important. Those roles are significant. But we can only do what you're going to be able to do on your own. I've worked with some brilliant people, some people that are very, very, very gifted. And because they doubt themselves, they'll never get further than where they are until they choose to believe in themselves. I can tell you, hey, I see right now, you're going to be this, you're going to be this, you're going to have this. Well, get off that call. You'll look at those notes. You'll leave your therapist session. You'll leave the retreat. You'll leave your homegirls. And then you're with yourself at night. And you can't continue asking those questions. You can't continue to figure out, how can I get motivated and then go back to a point where I feel like I'm not good enough? How can I get poured into by so many people and then go back to a point where I feel like I'm not good enough? What's the disconnect there? Why am I feeling this way? In the Fruit for You course that's going to be wrapping up in a couple of weeks. So if there's any entrepreneurs that missed the first Fruit for You 90-day group mentorship, don't be remiss. It is coming back and we're going to be starting in September. So you guys can be on the lookout. I think in July, towards the end of July, I'm going to start letting you guys know about the second semester of Fruit for You. I'm super, super, super excited about it. But one of the exercises that we got into was how to find the root of your problem. How to find the root of what you're feeling. If you're feeling this, asking yourself why. Asking yourself, when was the last time you felt this way? Asking yourself, what triggers you into feeling this way? Asking yourself, when did you feel this way in your childhood? What things have you seen and experienced that prove to you that this is how you should be feeling? Now, what things have you experienced that let you know that this isn't the right way to feel? What things have you experienced that kind of contradict what you've been taught and what you see? We're not able to do that dialogue. And we have to get back into the art of asking questions. We have to get back into the art of being inquisitive. We see all the time on social media that people will be asking all kind of questions in the comments and the answer will be in the caption. Yikes. Yikes. People are so conditioned to take things at surface value and not even ask a question. They're not even looking for other information. People just say, oh, I just keep running into the same person. I don't know what's wrong with me. I just keep dating liars. I don't know what's wrong with me. There's something so much deeper in that. There's always something so much deeper in whatever hurts you. And whatever holds you back, there's something deeper in it. For most of us, it's also generational trauma. For most of us, it's not just about what we've experienced in our childhood, it's about what our parents have experienced. For most of us, it's also about what we experienced in our friend groups. You know, if you were the bullied one in the friend, or you were the mom of your friend group, or what have you. For most of us, it's the people pleasing that we were subjected to in certain romantic relationships that now has become a problem for us. But we're not able to get to the root of that because we cannot ask questions. Because we can't ask ourselves questions. All I do is help people find the truth within themselves. and help people understand the truth within themselves outside of what they've been feeling. Getting control of your emotions and being able to just focus on the facts and focus on what, when, where, how, focusing on those things rather than the emotion that you're experiencing. That's how you get to the facts. That's how you get to the answers. That's how you get to the understanding. So many of us are just feeling the feels. We can't really get to the meat of the issue. And again, going back to childhood, being that inquisitive child again, if you're an inquisitive child and you're in a space of trying to figure something out and you're shut down, now you're left with these terrible feelings and you don't know why. Again, you don't even know why you're feeling that way, because maybe you're in that point where you're not even able to recognize, when I get rejected, it feels this way. When I get turned down, it feels this way. When I'm misunderstood, it makes me feel this way, because you're a child. It's not your job to know why you're feeling bad. So that creates another level of confusion. And you wonder, how come every time I have a question and I'm turned away, I end up in my room by myself for the rest of the day? And I end up with weird energy the next day. What's going on with that? You can't even verbalize that or notice that. It'll take years for you to get to the point where you can reflect and say, hey, I felt that way because of this. I felt that way because of this. And that's the biggest thing. The longer you take to regain your power of asking questions in life, being inquisitive, the longer it takes, the more your healing is going to be delayed, because being inquisitive and asking the right questions, that's the first step. That's the first step. Once you do that, you have to deal with the answers. And coping with the answers to the questions is the real moment of healing. Coping with the things that you're going to be discovering is the real moment of healing. Because a lot of times in this space, we don't want to ask questions of people. We don't want to say, hey, why did you do this? You know, it was my birthday. You know, I really cared about my plans. What made you think that was okay to do? Because it really made me feel some type of way. I would have never thought that in our friendship we would get to a point where this would happen. So what was your thought process like? What were you thinking about? Great question, right? You've been hurt on your birthday. Great question. But what are they going to respond with? Are they going to say, that's too bad? Are they going to say, oh my God, I was dealing with this. I was dealing with this. My mom was in a totally different place. Let's do a do-over. What response are you going to get? And then how are you going to follow up? You know, there's a certain dance, like I said, the art of asking questions. There's a certain dance to asking questions, getting information, getting knowledge. You can't shut down. You can't get overly emotional. You can't just say, okay, after one thing and not continue to dig, you know, and that's the whole gift of conversation that we are so lost on. We have lost the art of conversation. And it starts in childhood. Being in a space where someone has the right to tell you, I'm not saying nothing else to you about this, it is what it is. And that's the bottom line. I don't think that any human should ever be taught that or be felt that way, because you're taught that you don't have a right. You're taught that you don't have a voice. You're taught that what you really feel and what you really think doesn't matter because you're in this space. You know, being a child is not just about age. It's about feeling vulnerable. It's about feeling helpless. It's about being completely dependent on somebody else. You can feel those things when you're 50, when you're 60, when you're 40, when you're 30, at any age. So you'll still feel those same childlike feelings of not being understood. Let me just go with the flow. That's why so many people that are in abusive relationships literally feel like children. They can't speak up against this person that is louder than them and stronger than them and bigger than them. And that's the same way that we feel with our fear. That's the same way that we feel with our anxiety. We start to feel like anything that has power over us, we don't need to question it. We don't need to ask any questions. It just is what it is. If we don't like it, that's just too bad. We have to grit and bear it. And we feel that way, but we also want God to give us the answers. So which one is it? Are you going to feel like you don't have any power over this thing? Or are you going to feel like you're in the process of figuring it out? Because there's going to be certain things that you don't understand right now. But that's the thing. It's a conversation. It's a dance. It's not going to end tonight. It's not going to end right now. You don't ever have one session with me. You don't ever have one therapy session. You don't ever do one workout and get cured. You don't ever do one thing. It's a culmination of starting the habit of speaking to yourself, having the conversations, making it make sense, understanding, coping with the truth, creating a new reality, being able to release the things that you once believed or you once thought were true. You know, it's so important to do that. It's so important to do that. And there are so many pivotal moments for me growing up where even though maybe I didn't get the same respect in certain friendships that I got growing up in my household, eventually I was able to say, you know what? Friends shouldn't do this to each other. If people love you, they shouldn't do this. Because no matter what the world tells me and what people tell me, I was taught and shown what real love and respect looks like. I have that benefit. Most people do not have that benefit. In some way, shape, or form, your independence was taken from you as a child. Whether you had to take care of your other siblings, whether you were, responsible for things that you didn't want to be responsible for, whether you had to do things that you didn't want to do, but you had to do them, whether you, had a voice, you would speak up and you would just be told to shut up, whether you were just put down with your creative ideas, whether you were told that, oh, you're daydreaming, oh, this, oh, that, all of that sticks with you. All of that sticks with you and it doesn't go away. But because our parents say, I love you, you're my favorite, you're my this, you're my that, you're my baby. We do this Mother's Day stuff in class and we give them all these gifts. We do this Father's Day stuff and we show them our appreciation. And we develop this relationship that says love and appreciation can also exist where I can't have my voice, where I can't speak up, where I'm incapable of knowing my truth. And we think that that's okay. And we get stuck in this space where we can't find our way out of that. So it's important to ask the right questions. And also, let me say this, everybody that's done this to you isn't a bad person. This isn't to say you have to go no contact with everybody in your life and shut everybody out. But it is to say you get to decide what real love is. And if you can say, yes, someone cared for me. Yes, they did the best that they could. But that is not the love that I deserve. I know I deserve better love than that. You can say that. That's not a bad thing. That's your truth. And a lot of times we even have to start there. Some of us can't even speak out loud and admit to what made us like this. We can't even speak out loud and face the facts that we're only afraid because of this. We're only nervous because of this. We're only doubting ourselves because of this. This was a seed that made us into this. And now we have to do the work to undo that. We don't even want to say that and acknowledge that. I think that we're also taught that questions are confrontational, that questions equal judgment, that questions equal making people feel like bad people. I've definitely felt like that before. Like, oh my God, if I ask this person why they did this, it's like I'm telling them they're a bad friend. It's like I'm telling them that they're not good enough for me. None of those things are the truth. When you say that one thing, you're just saying that one thing. You're not saying a bunch of other things. You're just saying what you're saying. And also I had to learn to mean what I say and say what I mean. And this is something that my parents always just tell me, mean what you say and say what you mean. There's a way to communicate with love and respect and understanding. And there's also a way to communicate where you belittle somebody and you hurt them and you don't really listen to them and you walk all over them, So we have to find a way to communicate. It's not going to be like the first time you start communicating, it's going to be great, because you have to communicate with yourself first. And you might not always be kind at communication with yourself. You might not always, give yourself the benefit of the doubt. You might not always give yourself chances to figure something out. You may just say, you know what, this is what it is for me, and it's at the end of the story. It's a learning lesson to be able to really communicate effectively with yourself. It's also a learning lesson to be in a point where you're able to connect with the other people around you, and lift them up and support them and remind them of where you're going and what you're going to do and how you're going to be moving and things like that, So yeah, I think it's just important to know how to look within. And if you know how to look within, if you know how to ask yourself, why am I feeling like this? Again, ask yourself, when have you felt that way in the past? Ask yourself, when was the first time you felt that way and what triggered that? Ask yourself, what satisfaction do you get when you feel that way? Does it make you feel like you're in control? Does it make you feel like your feelings are validated? Like, this hurt me, so I'm about to be sad for a week. And that proves wherever that I'm really sad, that this really hurt me. Because sometimes we want to do that. Like, we get mad at something and we don't want to get over it because we feel like if we get over it, it means that, the situation is done and that the person isn't suffering on the other side of the world and they're not even thinking about you like that. When you ask yourself those questions, you'll end up being like, you know what? It makes me feel like I have control when I hold on to this. But I also know that when I hold on to this, I don't feel like I have control, though. It makes me think that I feel like that. Maybe I think I have control, but in reality, I'm stressed. I'm thinking about this person all the time. I'm wondering where I went wrong. I'm waiting on karma to get them. In reality, I feel like I'm spiraling. In reality, I feel like I don't have a grip, and I'm waiting on this revenge to give me peace. But I'm going to hold on to that because I think that that's going to solve all of my problems. It's such a disconnect. And a lot of us, the things that we think we need are the things that keep us in the same space, So it's so important to ask yourself why. Because if you're just making yourself do things, there's a chance that these things aren't even right for you. It's a chance that you're trying things and using techniques and working with stuff that might not even be suitable to your energy and to your needs. So it's really important that you're able to have that dialogue with yourself and even know what works. Some of y'all have been meditating, using crystals and journaling since 2018 and you still don't feel no better. Maybe none of that stuff is for you. Maybe none of that stuff is for you. How can you communicate with yourself and know what you need? How can you communicate with yourself and know what you need? I always recommend looking up a list of emotions on Google and literally looking up a bunch of emotions and figuring out what is associated with what you're feeling. If you're sad, what kind of sad? If you're depressed, what kind of depressed? If you're feeling lonely, what kind of lonely? If you feel like you're lacking, what do you feel you're lacking? Understand everything about what you feel. Don't just shoo yourself away. Don't just shut yourself down. Understand everything about what you're feeling and you figure it out. You get to the root of it. You take control over what you feel, over what you think, over your perception of what life is for you. You are in total control of that. So take control and see the advantage of that and step into every situation and every day, knowing what you need, knowing the questions to ask, knowing how to discover certain things. Because if you don't figure it out, you'll always want to know why. It's not like the desire to want to know why goes away. It stays with us. We just try to distract ourselves more and more and more, but the why is still there. The why is still there. And we just end up in a space where we're constantly searching for answers in other things. You know, we think that the answer may be in the revenge. We think the answer is in the new person. We think the answer is in moving. We think the answer is in something else. And we get those things and the why is still there. The why is still there because knowledge is the power. Not the action, not the doing it, not the faking it till you make it. It's the knowledge. It's the knowing it. It's the knowing it for yourself. So in terms of reflection and just being able to reflect better, have conversations with yourself and don't deny yourself any question. If you have any questions about anything, research it, look into it, ask around. If you're unsure of why someone did something or why someone said something, ask them. Start asking yourself questions. Why am I this way? Why do I feel this way? As a matter of fact, start with yourself. If you start with yourself, it'll be way easier for you to ask questions of other people. Start with yourself. Ask yourself, how am I feeling what I'm feeling? How am I experiencing what I'm feeling? What does this mean to me? What does this mean for me? How is this showing up for me? How is this making me feel about myself? What other emotions am I feeling now that I'm feeling this? Does this turn into anger and then into rage and then into something else? Your first little moments of inquisitiveness, if they're stumped on, it's going to be hard for you to ever see yourself to the end of a question ever again. Seriously. And it doesn't help that sometimes we go into schools and the teachers don't want to ask our questions. It doesn't help that sometimes you end up in a toxic relationship and your partner doesn't want to answer your questions or your friends don't want to answer your questions. It's not like we're going to always come across people who are emotionally healthy. A lot of people that we come across are going to be damaged. So if you're not getting the good fundamentals in your childhood and you grow up, I mean, you're going to be sent out into a world of damaged people and you're going to think that you're the problem. Or you're going to think that it's all normal because you're damaged too. You're going to think that it's normal to ask somebody a question and then it ends up in an argument. You're going to think that it's normal. Now, I'm not saying this person was right. They definitely were wrong. They were nuts. But I remember being in a toxic situation and we had an argument. They stormed out and I was just like, okay. I didn't expect to ever speak to them again. Because for me, a disagreement usually means the end of a relationship or the end of whatever. And I believe I was in my early 20s when this happened. So I didn't have a lot of really healthy relationship experience at all. As far as I'm concerned, we have an argument. We can't come back from that. It is what it is. And of course, this person ended up being like, that's not how arguments go or whatever. Now, they were nuts. They were nuts. But I do think that a lot of times we just kind of accept what we're given and we think that it's okay and we think that it's fine. Or even so, just like I mentioned, you come across someone that may be a different kind of bad, a different kind of toxic. I've met so many different people that have just been a different type of the same villain, a different type of the same selfish, a different type of the same insecure, you know, and you think that this person is maybe better because it's different. And again, that's just a distraction because it doesn't answer the initial question of what was wrong in the past with those past relationships. You know what I'm saying? When you don't let yourself fully understand something, you step into another situation and you're muddy. You know, you're clouded. Because this person, the same situation, we would just have a lot of explosive fights. So their idea of trying was just, you know, fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting. Versus me being like, oh, well, I haven't ever tried at all. So maybe this is what it looks like to try. To just be fighting. And for some people, that's the case. For some people, if they've never had someone, you know, form a bond to them, they could just be like, oh, well, this must be love because I've never had a bond formed to me. So maybe this is just what love is. But you know you're not feeling comfortable there. You know you're feeling anxious there. And in every toxic situation I've been in, when I have to remove myself, and I always remove myself, I always have to have a conversation with myself like, this makes me more nervous. This makes me more insecure. This makes me more antsy. It makes me more shaky. Is this really something I should be doing? Why do I think that this is good for me? Why? When you don't ask yourself that why, that's how so many people end up in relationships and in jobs and in situations for years and years and years and years, because it's been so long since they've asked themselves, why am I here? Why am I here? I think that a lot of people aren't business owners. A lot of people are just creative people who need to have hobbies. Everyone is not cut out to be a business owner. Everyone isn't. A lot of people need to ask themselves, why am I even doing this? Why do I even want to have kids? Why do I even want to get married? Why do I even want to move out of my parents' house? A lot of times, what we really want to do is outside of what we feel we need to do. But because we just do what we're told, we just do what's normal, we just do what everybody else is doing, we just try to follow the status quo and not ruffle the feathers, because we think that asking questions equals ruffling feathers, we end up in a situation where we never say, well, is this really what I want? And then we have to be 55 and find ourselves again. And there's nothing wrong with that. Shout out to everybody in their 50s, okay, and 60s and 70s. But don't waste time. I guarantee you, anybody that spent the first half of their life living it for everybody else because they didn't feel like their own voice was valid enough or strong enough, they regret it. They regret it. And you do not want to live life with regrets. You do not want to live life doing stuff based on what other people think you should be doing. Figure out what you want. Have a conversation with you. Just start off with what you're feeling. Something else, another really good question to ask yourself is, what do you believe about yourself that was taught to you from other people? What do you believe about yourself that you were told you were? How do you let other people come in your life and say, you're this, you're this, you're this? What do you believe about you that isn't even what you said you are? All the way back to your childhood. What things have you been taught about yourself that you've held on to that you now believe? How has that affected what you want? How has that affected what you believe about yourself? How has that affected what you know you can do? You know? Where do you feel you've been let down? Where do you feel you've let yourself down? Where do you feel you need to forgive yourself? What do you need to forgive yourself for? What do you want the most? What's the most important thing to you? What's the most important thing to you in this life outside of everything else? What's the one thing that you want to have? The one thing. And it might just be an energy. Mine is freedom. I want to be free in life. I want to be free to always do what I want, when I want to do it, where I want to do it, how I want to do it, forever. So whatever I have to do, I have to make sure that I maintain my freedom, you know? So that means in friendships, I have to find friendships that allow me to be free. That means in my marriage, I have to marry somebody. I had to marry somebody that allows me to be my independent self. That means in career, I have to do something that doesn't take up all of my time and all of my energy. That means I have to have freedom be my foundation for whatever I want. I know that if I don't have freedom, I will not be happy. I will not be at peace. I know any situation where I've been miserable, I did not have freedom. So I know that that's the one non-negotiable for me. Find your non-negotiables. It might be more than one. Find your non-negotiables. And in situations where you're not getting what you need, in situations where you're feeling like your back is against the wall, in situations where you don't know what you need, reflect on the situation. Reflect on what parts of you are being triggered by the situation. Understand that you're not just battling the situation, you're battling your past self, you're battling old programming, you're battling old belief systems. Ask the questions, have the conversation with yourself, have the dialogue. Sit in front of a camera, or write it down, or do a voice note, or have a vent session, or join a group chat. Do whatever you need to do, but get it out. Get it out, and get it out in a way that teaches you that communication can be healthy. I talked to myself for many years before I was able to openly talk to other people. You know, I was practicing doing fake YouTube videos in my room for years before I ever pressed play on the camera. So once you get started in this, it'll be a minute before you really feel like you're in a groove. You know, people always say, oh, you're able to talk so this, and oh, you're able to be so knowledgeable. Blah, blah, blah. I've been doing all of this for a very, 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 very long time. And not just this lifetime. In this lifetime, I have been doing it for a long time, but even before then, you know? Like you. If there's things that you want to do, it's a chance that it's in your blood, it's in your veins, it's in your lineage, it's in your spirit energy. And you always want to do whatever you need to do to get back to that. And there's a chance that there's a lot of things that are kind of distracting you from getting back to that. So yes, I hope this conversation gave you guys some things to think about. We really, really need to get back into asking questions. We really need to get back into figuring out what we need to step into and finding the answers for ourselves. When you know the answers for yourself, it's so much easier for you to connect with other people and be helped. You know, my favorite clients that I've worked with throughout the years are clients that take what I teach them and apply it. And they connect with me maybe every other year, every now and then when they need a little bit of assistance. But I can see you doing the work for yourself. That's the type of people that I want to work with and that I want to connect with. And that's the type of person that I want to be as well. I want people to see me every couple of years, and I want to be different. I want to evolve. And you guys always tell me, those of you who have been here since the beginning, always tell me that you're so impressed and proud of my evolution and what I've been able to do. And just me, and seeing me and knowing me and watching my demeanor change and watching me evolve into a different person. You are in the same space. You know, you're in the same space. We're always evolving. We always are changing. But you don't want to leave any parts of you behind in that evolution. You want to take those parts of you along the way and use that for knowledge and wisdom as you know, really figure out what life is all about and what you really want. So yes, guys, let me know how you feel about this down below in the comment section. If you guys want to book sessions with me, one-on-one sessions, get into it. Check down below in the description box to get into it. I love you guys as always. I thank you guys for being here, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys. Bless.